Logos are often used, especially by authors, writers, and painters, to convey the message that they want their readers and their audience to feel. Like you stated in the video, that the coin represents the message that you wanted the other readers to feel. And I think that's an important part and aspect to all forms of art, is to convey the messages or thoughts, feelings that you want your reader to feel. And in this case, you want them to feel empowered. And as well as in the second part of the logo, where you stated how the red might be associated with fire or fierce, I think it can also be associated with strength and determination, as opposed to the color blue, where the thoughts and feelings are often associated with maybe sadness or despair or timidness. We want our readers, you want your readers to feel strength and empowered, especially when they're speaking. You don't want them to feel timid or sad. That's the importance of choosing the correct logo and the correct writing and the correct colors in the books or art or whatever form of art that you may create. So it can all conveys a specific feeling that you want your readers and audience, and hopefully the audience beyond the audience, outside of your circle, to feel. Now, names are also important. My name is Maceo, and it means gift from God. My dad named me, and I think it's an important part of who I am, because I think my name really does represent who I am. And I'm glad that my dad named me, because my mom was gonna name me Escobar. No hate to any Escobars, but I think Maceo represents who I am as a person the best. The next question is, who am I as a person? I think I'm someone who is meant to make people happy, even if it's for a short amount of time. Just being able to make someone's life better, I think I've completed my purpose in who I am as a person. So, and then, what is your purpose? It's kind of like what I said before, to make people happy. But not only that, I think my purpose is to be able to create as many bonds with as many people as I can in my life. Because at the end, you want to be surrounded by people who you love and who you care about. Not people who are, I guess you could say, fake or not there in your best interest. And I think having a purpose can either be selfish or it can be selfless. And it's up to you to determine what you want that to be. How will you impact our planet? I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't know how I'll impact our planet, but I know how I would like to impact future generations, which may impact our planet. I'd like to teach my kids the importance of being kind and caring, and especially being able to teach them how to communicate with one another, as to not provoke any arguments or solve arguments in a respectful and meaningful way. And hopefully they'll pass it on to their kids, and then their kids will pass it on to their kids, so on and so forth. And hopefully soon, who knows where my descendants will be in the future, but hopefully they could teach my teachings around the world, so everyone will be able to understand one another more better. And I think understanding one another is the most important part of being a human. Next is academic achievement. I'll be honest, I wasn't super smart as a kid in the math subject, as I'm sure many other people probably aren't either, but I really struggled, and I didn't like how much I was struggling. And so as I grew older, I decided to dedicate myself to studying good practices and being able to achieve the grades that I wanted. And sooner or later, I was able to achieve president's list and made dean's list, and I maintained a 4.0 GPA at one point. So I think that was the highlight of my academic achievements as in regards to school. Intellectual premise. My sister, I think, is a great example of intellectual premise. She is 14 years old, and she got a gold medal in fencing, which she did through hard work and practice, and I think that's amazing. I think she is a perfect example of persevering and putting in the practice to get the goal that you want. Like you stated in the video, how the 18-year-old girl, she was practicing to become an astronaut. You know, my sister put in the work to put in practice to get the gold medal in fencing, which I think is awesome. Quality of writing. I wouldn't consider myself a strong writer, but I do like to write. Any form of genre. It could be like, I mainly like writing sci-fi. I even did that when I was a kid. So I loved writing classes a lot because I got to write what was basically on my mind. And then, you know, as a kid, you're watching all these TV shows about maybe like astronauts in space fighting aliens, and I thought it was super cool to write about that. So that's what I like to do too. That's what I got my inspiration from as a kid. Creative and original thought. Now, creativity is super important, especially nowadays. It can also lead into leadership roles. Where I mainly got my creativity from, I'm the oldest among my sister, my one sibling, but I also have four other cousins that I consider, I guess, my siblings. And so being the oldest, I would always have to come up with ideas of what to play when we got bored, or what we want to do outside. So being creative was a strong suit of mine. Especially nowadays, it grew from when I was a kid, wanting to learn, or not learn, but create new ways of play when we were kids, to now being able to creatively use my brain to come up with different questions or ideas as to solve situations or problems. And I thank my childhood for that. Productive class discussions are super important, especially when wanting to understand a subject further. I like class discussions because it shows the thought processes of my peers, or even the professor, as to how he got to an answer, which I think is super cool. And I think class discussions can foster maybe new friendships or new modes of thinking. Respect accorded to faculty. Now, like I said before, I'm the oldest among all of my siblings, but so at an early age, since I was the closest to, like, I guess, an adult, I always wanted to treat other adults with the most respect that I could. So I was usually very formal when I was a kid. That's also why I like to type more formally rather than informally. My mom taught me that because my mom is a Customs and Border Patrol officer, so she really taught me how to present myself formally, especially when in front of other adults. Disciplined work habits. Now that's a very important part of everyone's life, especially when coming into adulthood. Having good work habits, like, for example, when you're in high school, maybe you don't study as often, and then when you get into college, you just fail. Being able to transition between those work habits is important and crucial. And luckily for me, I was able to transition good enough for myself that I'm able to maintain good grades in my other classes. I learned these habits at an early age from, again, my mom. She she was really helpful in teaching me how to maintain my studying habits, staying up to memorize and learn new things, especially when it comes to tests. Not to regurgitate the information, but to retain the information. That's what's important when you're talking and learning about new things. Next is maturity. I'd say I matured at an early age too. Living with a single mother, I usually had to take care of my sister while my mom was at work. So my maturity level, I'd say was developed earlier, at an earlier age. I'm not saying I was super mature, but I was mature enough for my age, which again, I thank my childhood for that because it gives me lessons to learn now. Motivation. My family, motivation is key, especially when wanting to try new things. And I think my family especially is my motivation for putting myself out there and trying to make the best of my life. Next is leadership. I wouldn't say I'm much of a leader myself, although I don't like to be a follower. But I think leadership nowadays, people need leaders, not followers. They need people to come up with solutions, not to just wait around and wait for someone else to do it. Having a leader, being in that leadership role, comes with many responsibilities that, say, someone who was only a follower couldn't come up with. They couldn't come up with new ideas to that solution because they only know how to follow the leader. Integrity. I like to maintain integrity is a big part and a very crucial aspect to not only job, but as a person. Being able to maintain your integrity, being able to being able to confidently stand and say what you want to say without being swayed by another person. That's important, especially in the leadership roles nowadays. Reaction to setbacks. Everyone faces setbacks. I face many setbacks, but being able to calmly and confidently push forward is important when facing setbacks. You can face setbacks in many situations, not just jobs. So being able to be calm and confident in what you say and how you do it, that's what makes the person. Concern for others. Like I said before, I want to teach my kids to be compassionate for others and have their kids be compassionate for others. So I think being concerned for whether it be your family members, the stranger on the street, or your peers, being concerned for other people is not a liability. It's not showing weakness. Being concerned for others shows compassion, and we need more of that nowadays. Self-confidence. Now, when I was a kid, I definitely wasn't that confident in myself, but I'd say nowadays, especially after taking this class in public speaking, I'm able to be more confident in how I talk and how I present myself. You know, before I even took this class, my voice wasn't as prominent as before, but as you can see now, I'm speaking with confidence and being able to relay the information from my mind to you guys. I think that is important for me as a person. Maybe not for you, but for me. Independence. I like independence as a word. You know, being able to go off on your own and be your own person. That's also why I decided to go to St. John's, to be my own person and to do my own thing, because I think independence, if you're being babied all the time, you won't be able to you won't have critical thinking skills. All of these aspects, all of these questions that's been asked of me, I think all are important to you as a human being, not just for class, but for you as a human being. And I think that's the biggest part of life, being able to be all the things that you say you want to be. Thank you.